Well, I think you can figure out what I chose. So I am slowly working my way down to the taking the steering cylinder or the steering column off. So what I've done is I've already gone ahead and removed the dash. To remove the dash, I actually had to take the air cleaner off, which I was going to have to take the air cleaner off anyway, because to replace the fuel lines, I needed to take the air cleaner off. So no big deal there. I've gone ahead, taken the choke and the throttle cable off. That actually came off with the instrument or the dash panel, whatever you want to call it. And then also what I'll need to do next is I'll go ahead and pull all of this wiring back. I left some wiring where it was at. Some I moved around a little bit. Like for instance, I left the key switch in there, but then the light switch and stuff I did take out. So I basically had to do with what was easiest and what will be easiest to put it back together. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and you've got to get a wrench and remove the black box here, the time delay control module. And then I think what I need to do, I really don't want to pull this engine to do this repair. I have no desire to do that. But what I'll need to do next is actually get in there once I've got the black box, the time delay control module and everything out. I will need to take the hydraulic lines off of the steering column. Now that obviously is going to make a little bit of a mess, which I'm not too excited about because I really don't want to drain the hydraulic fluid out of this thing. But at the same time, I'll have to cap them to protect them from getting any debris or anything in them. So I'll have to do that as I go along. Then I can go ahead and drop the steering column out. It's just four bolts in there, or 4 nuts that I'll have to pull off, and then drop the steering column out. Then I can weld the bolt that I need to weld. In fact, if you look, I don't know if I can get this in there right. You can see it in there. I don't know if you can kind of see it in there. That's what we're after. We just got to get to it. And it is definitely behind the steering column. So I will continue to work on that. So far it is, I have been working on this. I have gotten, since I decided to do it, what you see here I've done in 25 minutes. So I'm going to try to keep my time on how long it takes me to do all this. So I'll keep working at it. And once I get the steering column out, I'll show you what the problem was. Alright, so we've got the steering column out. All total, from the time I started to do this until I had the steering column out, was approximately 47 minutes. Biggest challenge is actually going to be getting those 5 lines back on the steering column. Now you can see that there's actually a little bit of trash in there. I still have to deal with that. But what I wanted to show you is my problem here. Let me see if I can find a place to stick the light. So you see, I have trouble getting the light somewhere to stick somewhere. So this is the problem right here. I'll just pull it out. So these 2 tabs used to be these 2 little weld marks. You can see them if it'll ever focus. So those 2 marks there, I don't know why I want to focus. So that's where it was welded onto the frame. So it should be welded onto the frame. Now fortunately it doesn't look like there's any really excessive wear. Maybe a little bit right there, but not too much. So that's the good news. You can also see the 2 witness marks right there and right there. That's where it was welded in, much like this tab right here. So that leaves me to the question of how do I want it welded back in there again? Obviously, I have to, I'll get I don't know how to get everything ground off and whatnot. But I'll have to get in there with a grinder, grind everything out. Got to get the welder out. First time I have picked up a welder in almost a year, so this should be a lot of fun. I will also have to protect all those hydro lines and everything, keep crap from falling in there. Now, as I was doing this, I was thinking, it's like, well, what if I didn't have access to a welder? What would I do? Honestly, I don't know. Probably what I would do is I would do the same thing, and I would clean it all up, and I would put basically just a big gob of JB Weld over the top. I think that would be the easiest thing to do if I was faced with this problem. And I didn't have a welder, I think. I'm not really sure. There's probably a couple other things that you could do. You might be able to rivet it on, but I don't know if you have enough room on the lip here. But so we'll see. I'll get all this cleaned up. I'll get the welder out, get this welded on, and I'll come back and show you how I did it. So, or I'll tell you how I did it. So, see exactly how long this should take to repair. I figure if it took me 45 minutes to take apart, it should only take me an hour and a half to 2 hours to put it back together. That's about my normal pace. So, for every minute that I spend taking it apart, it takes me about 2 minutes to put it back together. So, hopefully we can get it put back together tonight. So there's my repair in all its glory. Obviously, I am not good at welding. The one on the bottom looks a little bit better than the one on the top. I started with the one on the top. I didn't get the penetration on that one, I guess on the left side of the screen, like I wanted. So I actually moved over to the old. You can see we're kind of right above that. To prep the surface, I got in there with just a die grinder, an air-powered die grinder. And that's what I used to prep the surface. I'll probably come back and do a little bit more on the bottom. I did tap it with a brass hammer just to make sure that it is solid, and it is solid. I can tap it with a hammer, it didn't come out. So I may put a little bit more in there just for good measure. It's not going to hurt it, obviously. But that now we can start reassembly as soon as I start putting everything, or as soon as I get done with this part. So overall, not half bad. Managed to get the Hobart 140 out. So like I said, first time I've used it in like a year and a half. So kind of nice to get it out and use it. Just haven't had any welding projects, haven't had any type of welding to do. Hopefully you like my little, I think that's a Planter's peanut cover right there. I actually went digging in the trash for it, saw it in the trash, I was like, oh, that'll be perfect. I had a paper towel over it to do all the grinding and everything, and then wanted something a little bit less likely to catch on fire. So I did have to wait about 20 minutes. I ended up with some non-flammable brake cleaner, and I didn't realize it, and I was using that on this, and so I had to wait for it to completely evaporate for the chlorine that's in it, so I didn't create chlorine gas. Nobody wants that, so I had to do that. Plus you're working in there with all that grease and everything, so it's very liable to catch fire. Didn't have any fires or anything major. Actually had one little flare up, but that's nothing to write home about. I blew it out with I blew on it and it went out. So anyway, I'll see if I can get it a little bit better, and then we'll start reassembly.